My name is Jared Frank. I'll be the moderator for today's event on emerging technologies. This is certainly content that's critical to this moment, and also one that we're planning on doing a lot more with throughout the rest of this year, including at our conference and trade show. And as a reminder, the 31st annual ALSD Conference and Trade Show and Sports Venue Design and Build Forum will be a live, in-person physical show this year, held at the Aria Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, August 15th through the 17th. Zoom has served its purpose. It will continue to do so for us, but as the gentleman and I were discussing before going live here today, we're all very excited and feel there's a great opportunity to get back together again in person, safely, of course, but we feel your optimism. We see and hear it as venues are reopening. And we've also heard of your demand to get back and gather again. So that's what we're planning on doing. Again, the Aria Resort and Casino, August 15th through 17th in Las Vegas. The program will be consistent with what you'd expect from an ALSD conference, best practices across sales, service, leadership, food and beverage. We've also added a technology track to this year's event. And that's what we're going to be discussing here today is technology, because we essentially all knew this before, well aware of it now, that technology is really that connective tissue that links all departments together within your teams, your venues, and certainly all tracks at the ALSD conference as well. So we've got a tight 40 minutes planned for you today. Technology could encompass literally everything. We could talk about ticketing. We could talk about retail, anything and everything. And we'll get to as much as we can, but this is going to have a heavy emphasis on food and beverage. And again, planning a lot more pieces of content like this throughout the rest of the year. So in order to get started, we have to meet the panel. And so let's do that. I'll ask each gentleman to just simply tell us who you are, the organization you come from, and a little bit about the lens through which you look at the topic here today. And I should make note that we're hoping that Robert can join us. He's gotten held up, but we're working to get his schedule cleaned up and get him into the session as soon as possible, because he has a really amazing perspective to lend as well. But we're in good hands to get started. So with with the real Bill Walsh, please stand up and introduce yourself to the audience here today.
Wow, what a great M&M reference. Any panel that starts with an M&M reference, that's great. No, thanks, Jared. Bill Walsh, I'm a VP of Strategy and Development with the Tampa Bay Rays. I've worked for the club for about 13 years now, which seems pretty amazing, but it's been a great experience. I've been pretty heavily involved in some of our technology deployments, particularly as it relates to a lot of our game day technology and our game day technology stack, and so have been intimately involved in some of the rollouts around some of the technologies we'll be talking around today around food and beverage and mobile ordering and mobile ticketing specifically. So look forward to the panel.
Sandeep, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone. See a lot of familiar faces, which is awesome. Sandeep Satish, Vice President of Strategy and Analytics at E15, Levy Strategy and Emerging Tech Arm. Have been a close partner of Bill for many years now. I've been with E15 for about 7 years, and I've worked with many folks that I see on the attendee list on various technology rollouts in food and beverage and retail as well. So excited to talk about that today.
Great. Well, let's get to it. The Q&A function is enabled here today. So those of you in the audience, if you have a follow-up to ask on any of these themes that we'll be touching on today, please don't hesitate. I'll try to prioritize those as I'm working through my own list that I've prepared for the panel today. I always think that you can't just do technology for technology's sake. It can't just be the shiny new object that becomes a cool press release. We really have to focus on solving problems and identifying what are the challenges, what are the problems that are in front of us, and then is technology the best way to address and solve for those problems. So, Bill, I'll put you on the spot and ask you to go first. What are the current challenges, the current problems facing your organization today after essentially a year without fans or limited capacities of fans? You know, what are the problems you're trying to solve? And then begin to give that 30,000 foot view on how technology is solving for some of those issues.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the first thing I'll say is that a lot of these problems existed, you know, before COVID and before the pandemic. You know, I think the latest is obviously, you know, around health and safety and contactless experiences. But, you know, in general, we've seen, as you all have, I'm sure, just a rapid acceleration in movement in this space, certainly on behalf of vendors and clubs, but also from our fans in terms of what their expectations are when they come back out to the ballpark. A lot of fans, for the first time in the last, you know, 14, 15 months have tried things like, you know, Instacart or Uber Eats or whatever it may be. And so, you know, the landscape is rapidly evolving, and our fans' expectations are changing, and we need to change with them in order to meet them. But, you know, taking aside kind of the COVID impact for a second, I mean, these challenges fall into a couple different buckets. I mean, one of the biggest ones that's always just amazed me is how little we know about who's coming to our venue and what they're doing when they get there. So, you know, to the extent that technology can help us figure out who's actually in our venues, literally, but also just from a demographic, psychographic standpoint, I think that's tremendously helpful, and hopefully will allow us to unlock some value down the road in terms of sales and conversions. But you know, I would say the primary focus in the near term is really just about improving the fan experience. Specifically, you know, any point we could take friction out of the experience, have someone wait less or not wait at all for something, reducing, you know, congestion points and choke points, and, you know, adding an element of personalization to our venues. The experiences are sometimes overwhelming. They're huge venues. Folks have a limited amount of time. They're also trying to watch a great game, hopefully. So, you know, we have a very limited window of opportunity to deliver content and information to folks that they find relevant to make their experience better. So, you know, I think generally at a high level, that's where we tend to focus our energies in this space.
And Sandeep, I won't, of course, ask you to speak for the Bucks or speak for the Rays, but just across the Levy portfolio, when you are considering a technology solution, what does it need to do, right? Like, oh, this is cool. Like, that's not good enough, right? Like, what is it? What do you actually need to see it be able to do before you put a seal of approval on it that, hey, this is a good idea that we need to share with our partners?
Yeah, and it's good timing because I see Robert just joined us, which is great. So I could certainly talk about a lot of the mobile ordering and lockers that we've done at Fiserv. But I think, Jared, to answer your question, and it starts with like understanding what actually makes sense for each venue. We'd love to scale a lot of these solutions across the board. But I think what COVID has definitely taught us, and even before COVID, is that each venue is truly unique for that reason, whether that's infrastructure, capital investment, equipment, back of house. So the first step is really understanding, one, what does the partner want to achieve? Then looking at all the different technologies, what makes sense in your venue based on guest flow, how much space you have. Because if you try to do just mobile ordering for everybody, it doesn't actually work, right? It's going to really depend on that balance of express pickup and in-seat and other things like that. So we look at all the different criteria and kind of almost create a scorecard for each venue. And then we'll work very closely to make sure, as Bill just said, is it driving guest experience? Is it driving increased spend? Is it driving conversion, speed of service? Really look at some of the sub-metrics as we proceed with those investments.
Robert, thrilled that you've been able to join us. Apologies for any technical confusion, or certainly understand that you got caught up in meetings previous to this, but thrilled to have you. Can you just give us a quick introduction to the audience? Just tell us who you are, the organization that you represent, and a little bit about the lens through which you look at the topic here today.
Yeah, sure. No, hi. So Robert Cordova, the Chief Technology and Strategy Officer for the Milwaukee Bucks. When the team was sold 5 years ago, The city of Milwaukee gave us essentially 30 acres of downtown land to develop. So so now we actually have our own arena, Fiserv Forum, as of 3 years ago. And we're about halfway through developing that Deer District. So lots going on. Obviously, we're a basketball team first and foremost, but also real estate developer, a lot of entertainment beyond basketball. So for all of us, it's been a very tough year, right? And reopening the doors has been great from a morale perspective. And then I'm sure as you started to talk about all the technology that has helped enable that. So glad to be here. Thanks, Jared.
Why don't we just get right into it? Let's talk about some of those technology components that are enabling these new and enhanced fan experiences in Fiserv. Tell us about mobile. We've heard Bill allude to mobile technology. That's something with dozens of fan touch points, but focusing on the food and beverage piece, the mobile ordering piece, how are you leveraging mobile food and beverage programs in your building?
Sure. So, from a fan experience standpoint, we knew that, it's all about consumer confidence, right? So when fans return, we want them to feel safe and engaged and be able to come into a game and enjoy it just as much without having any of that worry of risk. So one of the big things that we knew is that we didn't want fans having to go stand in line because social distancing, it's very important, but you just kind of get caught up in the, Pavlovian kind of stand in line and you're not 6 feet apart. And so we decided to go to an entirely mobile ordering paradigm, at least as we start up allowing guests back into Fiserv Forum. So, we leveraged our partner Bypass, which conveniently is owned by Fiserv, the technology fintech firm. And we were able to get the technology there. So as part of our Yinscan app, there's a section in there that is all around mobile ordering. Now, what I will say is that our fans had known about this kind of prior. So from an experience, it wasn't a big surprise because we have had the beer button out there for like 2 years where you could go to the mobile app, order a beer from a very simple screen. And so that was kind of a fun thing where then we'd run you down a beer or two to your seat, right? So this is kind of like a natural progression of that. And, what I said about, what the pandemic has allowed us to do is really accelerate a lot of the campaigns, a lot of the technology that we were going to put out there anyway. So instead of 3 years down the road, it became like this year, right? So that's kind of nice. Plus, I think, from a adoption perspective, the guest knows that we're doing this to keep them safe. So I think you kind of also get the get out of jail free card as you try these new things a little bit more aggressively than you may have had time in the past. So my whole point there is if there are small bugs, I think that the user community, our fan base, is a little more forgiving. So the technology, I would say, was fairly straightforward to get it out there. It was really changing the food and beverage operations to support that because we were built to have concessions, right? And actually having to rearrange all of the flows of our fans to come in and pick up their food. That was the biggest challenge. And so Levy did a great job at reconfiguring all of their operations to support the new paradigm of mobile ordering.
Can you tell us a little bit about the locker program and how that fits into this whole ecosystem of food and beverage technology in your building?
Yeah, sure. So, simply put, we have a reduced menu that you can see on your phone. If you don't have a phone, you can go up to a kiosk as well. And you essentially order the food, beverage, beer, whatever you want, cocktails as well. And then you get a push notification when your food is ready to be picked up. We have a lot of the digital signs, we have like 850 digital signs at Fiserv Forum. So we have a lot of signs kind of, explaining, where to stand in line, where to go in. So it was really important that, you have very stanchioned off like ingress to get your food. Then you come to the cubby hole and the person there essentially scans your QR code. Up on the board, you see what cubby hole is associated with your name. First name, last initial, and you go to that cubby hole, get your bag, get your drinks, scan out, and that takes you off the board. So we try to make it as intuitive as possible, leveraging our existing Cisco Vision digital signs.
And Bill, you're doing things a little bit differently. Some other mechanisms being used to receive orders and deliver those orders. Can you tell us about some of the specifics of your program? And then take it one step further. And as Sandeep alluded to, every building is unique. Every building is different. So what were some of the motivating factors for why you chose the strategy that you did?
Yeah, sure. So I would kind of break up our strategy into three phases. The first phase we really started deploying back in 2018. As we started, moving towards becoming a cash-free building, which we did in 2019. But there was a lot that we did the preceding year to enable that and make sure that went well. One of those solutions was the touchscreen kiosk ordering. We deployed about 25 of those around the building and learned a lot from that. There were multiple problems that we were trying to solve with those particular pieces of technology. One area that we saw the greatest success was a pretty congested and tight space in our center field area. It's called the Porch and Center Field. It's a big kind of social, bar hangout with lots of really popular food options that are all served off portables. And so actually separating the transaction point from the pickup location, we removed points of sale from the portables and went to 100% kiosk ordering at those locations. We were able just to solve a pure operational problem around congestion in that space. And so that we saw a lot of success with that. And that became kind of like a gateway, into accelerating growth in that area, allowing for higher sales volumes, starting to train our customers in some of these technologies. But we all know, I think that the kiosks are a nice piece of technology. We tend to view them more as a kind of a bridge technology. The best kiosk is the one in your pocket. And so phase two really then began to move into kind of a mobile ordering strategy. In 2019, we did pilot a small mobile ordering footprint for pickup as well as in-seat. And we really accelerated that, as Robert did this year, to kind of make mobile ordering available to every seat in the building, focusing on, an express pickup strategy at the moment. But the goal there being, again, very similar. Hey, we only have limited queuing spaces for lines. If we can peel off really any percentage, off of our food and beverage transactions and move those over to mobile and get those folks out of lines, that's going to be a good thing. So we have seen a lot of success with that. We're, trending upwards, but probably around 10 to 15% volume wise in the building in terms of mobile ordering right now. Those kiosks that I mentioned, about 20% of the revenue from those is now we're seeing that through a mobile order from your phone versus the kiosks. So that's allowed us to grow revenue, in that particular location. And I think as we look towards kind of the next phase, really focusing on in-seat. All of our venues do a ton of volume in beverage only transactions, and to have someone get out of their seat, stand in line for 10 minutes and just grab a beer is silly. There's got to be a better way we can deliver that experience. So I think in-seat is going to be pretty key to unlocking some value for the fan as well as us there.
Sandeep, I want to jump a little bit ahead in the interest of time, and still related to all of this. We've been reading and hearing a lot about markets, and there are different types of markets. It's not as simple to say just, hey, do a market. There are different types, different vendors that you can choose to partner with. Can you give us just a broad overview of the fundamentals, the ABCs of what we need to know about if we're going to consider a market in our facility?
Yeah, and then both of these venues we're partnering with either coming in this year or potentially down the road. So I think Bill and Robert are well versed in this. I think we look at it from a, what is your space, right? Is there a new build or a retrofit? Those are probably your A-B solutions. Where do you start? Do you have an empty space that you want to build a new market, or do you have an existing space that you want to maybe retrofit? And then I think we work our way through kind of what I mentioned earlier with that scorecard. What kind of investment do we have? Is there a partnership in play? What are we trying to solve for in terms of where people are coming from? A basic market is you're just take out a new stand or a new space, and it's your traditional kind of airport-like, but I would say the sports environment has done a much better job of making this more guest-facing, if you will. And traditional point of sale, so you just walk up, it's your traditional belly up. Those still work quite well. You could even combine some vending machines together that are high tech, but that's like your base market. I think what we're starting to see is a lot of value and a lot of speed in terms of a bridge solution, which is this idea of a self-checkout. So whether you can grab something, scan, and walk out, or even use your phone to do that with some of our partners. So you scan the item, you pick it up, kind of show the guest concierge, and then you walk out. Then obviously there's this last pillar, which we're hearing quite a lot about, and many of our venues are working with, and I see a number of our partners on this call, is the frictionless checkout or just walkout experience, where you go in, grab something, you walk out. And those are a lot of providers in this space. So those are the ABCs. They're much different in cost. They're much different in construction. They each work for different venues. And so I think what we're going to see is a hybrid approach. Try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, see what scales, and then you kind of build from there.
Let's take that one step further, Robert. I'm going to send this to you. This is an audience question. It's essentially asking for just a little bit more detail on the great outline just given. The question is, what are the panel's thoughts on grab and go from the likes of Zippin and Amazon stores? And I wouldn't expect you to endorse one vendor versus the other, but just give us an idea of how you're thinking about the concept of grab and go in your facility.
Sure. So, this is one of the things that we want to accelerate, right? So we are going to be trialing grab and go soon. And it's one of those things, how you take friction out of the process. So when fans are coming into the building, we have pretty large concourses at Fiserv Forum. So we have found spaces where as the fans come in, what can they grab and go to their seats with, right? What would a fan want to grab and go? A beer, a soft drink, food, whatever those kind of simple things are. So they can really, almost as part of the natural flow of them going to their seats, they can get stuff, So that's kind of, so we are trying to we are going to be trialing that. We have picked some locations to see how it all works out. So, and then it just comes down to the various technologies that are out there. And so, how do they use their mobile phone, or is it, is it more of a scan-based thing? So, so we will be trialing Zippin soon. So, and see how that all goes.
Sure. Again, I could talk to you guys all day about this stuff. In the interest of time only, because there's so much more rich detail we could provide, Sandy, want to go to you on the reporting piece of this and the challenges that are presented in reporting. We're receiving all of this data. We want to use it properly, use it well to inform good decisions. But now we're plugging in different vendors, different softwares. It becomes complicated very quickly. What do our audience members need to know about reporting and how to do it well?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I know, Bill, maybe you want to jump in behind me, because Bill and I have been dealing with it certainly at our venue there. It's, traditionally we had this one point of sale pretty much everywhere, right? It was your fixed belly up stand. And that worked well because that was the same system pretty much across the board. So you got the same standard reporting. I think has obviously been a need and a great benefit to kind of going with the beer button, mobile hawking, mobile ordering, right? Self-service kiosk. But what's happened is the industry, I think, has disparate kind of changes there. There's not one provider that does everything for you, right? And they're starting to be that way. So there are some vendors that do this and partners of ours. But you'll get in a system where all of a sudden you have a mobile app that's different than your mobile ordering, which is different than your self-service kiosk, which is still different than your point of sale, by the way. So our operators who are at the end of this, at the end of each night now need to pull from 4 different systems and try to reconcile everything. So it's quite a human capital cost to do this. And I think my advice is, as teams go down this journey, is what systems do you have in place that you can kind of build on today? What systems may require a wholesale change, and how they all tie to each other? Because there's still downstream impacts to the digital menu board or how people enter from ticketing, right? Those are all just different systems which go beyond the Levy E15 side. From a CRM perspective, it's important to how do all those tie and how do they report. So it's something, Bill, I'd love for you to weigh on. We're obviously seeing it live at Tropicana.
Yeah, I mean, we said it at the beginning. I mean, technology solves problems, and sometimes that works quite well. But it also adds oftentimes a lot of complexity to an already pretty complex ecosystem, and one that is already highly fragmented for most of us at our venues, right? So, for example, at Tropicana Field, we've got, I mean, probably 3 or 4 different points of sale systems now. We have one for parking that we just rolled out. We have a mobile wallet solution that attempts to integrate with all of those point of sale systems, and that's where we deliver a lot of our benefits for our season ticket holders, like discounts on food and beverage and retail, and promotional dollars that they can earn for certain behaviors or renewing on time or things like that. And it's a tremendous amount of complexity. You start to add in, mobile ordering, and you've got revenue going into different buckets, and some of it's real money, and some of it's promotional money, and some of it expires, and some of it doesn't. And there are, gift card laws that govern a lot of this that are different state by state that vendors may not be familiar with. So, all of that, I think, points to the need to have, a really clear strategy for how you do this. And try to understand really before you get in too deep, how you're going to be able to stitch this together, how you and your teams are going to be able to get, the visibility into the back end of this. I mean, this is just good governance, certainly, but it's also really important to be able to get quick access to this information, because there's a lot of failures when you roll out new technologies, and we try to fail fast and learn from it and make, really quick changes. But if you don't have the information, you can't do that. So I think it's access to good reporting and good data in a timely fashion from all these disparate systems is definitely a focus area as you get into the space. It's going to help you be better and react better to what you're seeing out there.
I want to continue that sort of organizational readiness conversation, maybe the last couple of minutes. I think that's a really important piece. Before we continue down that path, Bill, sticking with you, you talked a little bit earlier about adoption rates and started to touch on performance. Let's talk about some of the key learnings a little bit more there. I'm personally interested in, what are the measurable components? What are the indicators of success? What matters to you that you're measuring and taking notice of?
I mean, from a financial standpoint, certainly per caps are a good metric to look at. They're influenced by a lot of factors, menu mix, pricing, who's in your building, all of that. We have seen some pretty phenomenal per cap growth this year, and there's I think a lot of reasons that are behind that. I think kind of like a post-COVID kind of like boom in spending is behind a lot of that too. I think the industry is seeing that across the board in general, but when we start to pick it apart, we do see a lot of connections to increased basket sizes, higher conversion rates, much higher, 20-30% higher transaction amounts, really driven by a lot of the new technology that we've deployed from, through kiosks and through mobile ordering. So, I think we view that certainly as successful, but, I think the biggest indicator is just the adoption curve. And if it's not a good experience, we're not going to be able to drive adoption. So I think, we're doing our jobs if we're creating a good customer experience, if we're responding to real use cases that exist out there from a demand standpoint. And the better we can do that, the more adoption I think that we'll see over time. So that's probably the biggest metric that we pay attention to.
Bill, one more for you, then I'll let you get a drink of water. But you have a really, it's at least interesting to me. I think it'll be interesting to the audience, a component of your guest services team, because like you said, some things don't always work. You have to fail and fail fast. And one of the ways that you're failing fast, making it fast when you fail, is making sure your guest services team is on top of it. So I'm in your building, I'm having trouble with your app, it's just something's not working as I think it should. How are you helping alleviate some of those pain points for your fans?
Yeah, so I think this was just born from a realization that we've, over the last 7-8 years, frankly, we've taken a very incremental but steady approach to rolling out new technologies. And we started with our season ticket holder base, and we thought that the service component of that, which those folks are used to, they're used to a certain amount of hand holding. That's an amenity that they come to expect from spending a certain amount of money with us and making a commitment to us. And so we make that commitment to them from a service standpoint. But what we noticed really quickly was, despite the issues that we were experiencing, whether it's something not scanning properly, or someone not being able to log in, or their money not being there, or whatever the issue is, having this kind of old school layer of human interaction, and being able to apply that to a technology rollout does a couple things. And number one, it can just de-stress and reduce anxiety for a lot of people when you're asking them to step out of their comfort zone, just to have someone who can kind of walk them through it. A lot of times is the differentiator to getting someone to just try it. And most often we find when folks do try it, they like it and they do it again. So it's that first hurdle there. But also just turning, a negative into a positive, and again, not having someone leave with a completely salty taste in their mouth, but again, having, solve their problem and maybe giving them something in return for it from a customer service standpoint. So we actually have a dedicated team now that we've rolled a lot of these technologies out beyond our season ticket base to the entire stadium. We have a separate division within our guest services group called the Raise Tech Team. And they have actually separate solution space right next to our guest services locations. They are deployed out in the building and the concourses. So they focus a lot on mobile ticketing during ingress, for example. But as more and more people come in the building and they're walking around and they're shopping, buying food and beverage, we deploy them out into our concourses to support our concessions operations and our retail operations. So there's about 20 of them that we have on staff. We deploy anywhere from 12 to 15 of them per game, depending on the attendance levels. And we've just seen a lot of success with, again, kind of interacting with guests and turning kind of at best an anxiety-ridden experience, and at worst a really bad experience into a positive. So it's been helpful for us.
Robert, I want to come back to you. We need to talk about how these things scale and any challenges that might be presented, because we're slow rolling these things, and we're testing them, so to speak, with limited capacities, and things are going great and it's all rainbows and everything's great. But we're going to start adding more and more people to the building, which may apply more and more pressure to these systems. So how are you thinking about how these things scale and ensuring that they scale well when your building is full?
Sure. So, there's a few prongs there, right? Bill just mentioned a great one. Like, how do you support these new apps, these new technologies, these new customer journey parts, right? So there's a big human factor of that. When we opened up Fiserv Forum, we opened from day one as a paperless digital ticket environment. So we had some pushback initially, but we have a great front of house group of folks that are hired for being extroverts, kind of that Southwest Airlines sort of thing, where you want to hire the right folks to be that face of the Bucks during Bucks games or concerts. And so that kind of proactive customer service kind of took the edge off of like, hey, I got to actually use my smartphone to get into the building. So that kind of carried on to all the newer technologies, because that smartphone is that digital touch point for for the guests primarily, right? So there's just making sure that you have all the support there, human support, as you scale up. Then there are things like, the basic blocking and tackling on IT. How can you test this technology? The joke is, you build, you test before you go into production. But, does it scale to, from the 3,000 fans that we have now to the 19,000 that we'll have hopefully, by next season. So there's the technology testing that has to take place. But I would go back to what Bill was saying. Like, the most important thing is that your front of house employees understand better than the guests what that customer journey is like. So they've gone through that mobile ordering experience over and over. So they know we're all kind of like where they were confused when they first learned about it. So they're not afraid to go practically help our customers, adopt all of this new stuff. And then there's the financial metrics. If, grab and go is supposed to increase per caps by, 10%, does it hit that? And that all comes back into really ingesting the data into the right dashboard so our executives can see all of that almost real time. So, and then you can make changes and things. So, we all know it's continuous improvement, right? Like, hey, did the grab and go fail, or was it just in the wrong part of the concourse? So can we use our crowd intelligence software to tell us where our fans are as they come into the building? So there's, I don't think we want to, we want to trial things, but really make sure that we've done everything for those new things to succeed, because most of these ideas are good ideas. It's just hard to get them to implement them. That becomes the hardest part of it, not the idea itself, but actually implementing it in a way where our guests will adopt it, see it as a positive thing. Hey, this is great. I spend less time in the line. Like our mobile ordering, you don't have to go stand in like 4 lines now for your kids' pizza and your cocktail and your fried chicken, whatever that is. Now it's just, hey, I just get it from my one digital touch point, my phone, and it's all in the bag in my cubbyhole. I mean, that's a positive thing, right? So it's that kind of communication and explanation to our fan to make sure that they know that we're there trying to create the best experience for them.
Absolutely.
Jared, I just want to add a couple of things there real fast, because I think Robert and Bill hit it all on the head. I would add a couple of things, though, which is equally important, is to make sure, and I think it ties to the question that I saw in the chat, making sure the employees are trained very much on all of these, and also the management, right? I think 2 great partners here, like, have them use the system as well to understand how challenging some of this is. And I think we're trying to push as many of our partners, as Robert said, test the heck out of it, but use your own staff, right? For a lot of our new venues that are opening, can we do events with the 1,000 people that work for the organization, let them all come into the building and try to order at once, and what happens? And that really helps the partner understand, wait a minute, it's not as easy as it looks, and here's why behind it. I think the last point I'll say is also using kind of in-venue assets and out-of-venue assets. So we've seen a lot of good best practices from using the digital signage, the jumbotrons, emails and season ticket holder focus groups, websites, right? Each fan's gonna have a different touch base as to why you're doing this, and it's important to sub-segment that message to each of those different groups. So my 2 cents on that one.
Yeah, appreciate that. Let's actually stay with you for a moment. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the organizational readiness piece that Bill began to take us down that path earlier. We're starting to get up against time, so we'll do the best we can to go quickly here, but this is an important piece. These 2 venues are seemingly, at least from my seat, they're ahead of the game in a lot of ways. And a lot of these solutions, they sound great, but it's not a light switch. There's a lot of planning and months of planning and conversation that needs to happen in advance of deploying some of these things. So for venues in the audience that aren't quite as, they're not quite in the same place as Bill or Robert, what is your advice to them? And also, what do they need to know? Like what needs to be in place first before they can even start thinking about layering some of these solutions on top?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the first is buy-in across the board of all verticals. I think it's the first challenge we saw 5 years ago with mobile ordering. A lot of our partners said, hey, we want to do mobile for food and beverage. And I remember having this conversation with Bill. I said, what about all your other verticals? What does ticketing want to do? What does parking want to do? Because if you don't buy in across the board, it's just going to be a very isolated test that your own team doesn't really believe in, right? So I think the first step is making sure, do you have the staff across the board? Do you have the guest services ready? Do you have buy-in from the top of the executive team to do these initiatives? And then I think you kind of funnel your way through. Are the employees ready to be trained both on the hospitality side for merch and food and beverage and for your own guest services? What does that training program look like? Do you have the capital, the time, and the dollars to do that? This is not a single project. It's not a, hey, partner, just go out and do this. It's a holistic team that works best cross-functionally. You need someone like a Bill and a Robert with the tech partner, with the concessionaire to really, really nail this out. And with both of these venues, we had done a lot of this work pre-pandemic, and it wasn't like, hey, we just sat there for the 12 months and did nothing. Every month with both of these venues, we ran numerous models for the Rays. I saw so many iterations of the locker for the Bucks, and it takes a lot of that effort, right? So you've got to put the time and effort to do that across all of your segments, if you will.
That could really be a 40-minute panel by itself. So it doesn't do justice to the level of preparation that needs to take place. I think the bottom line for this panel is to express to the audience that the preparation is key. You can't skip steps, and there's a lot more involved that you need to make sure that your leadership team is aware of and their expectations are managed. There are a couple of audience questions. I want to hit these quickly before we are out of time. Forgive me, I don't know who to address this to. So anybody that thinks it's a good one for them, it's applicable to their building, just hop all over it. Are you implementing ghost kitchens to support food lockers and provide multiple menu offerings into one collection point? Robert, I guess I'll address that or send that to you first because there's the reference to the lockers, but ghost kitchens, doing anything in that area?
I mean, so we've used all of the internal kitchens at Fiserv Forum. Like I said, we had to reduce the number of food SKUs just because we couldn't make everything that we did. And so we kind of rearranged our kitchens in a way where we can make whatever the SKUs are on our menu and then get them to the cubby holes when they were still hot, right? And keep them hot. So it wasn't so much a ghost kitchen paradigm, but just really changing our operational workflow. And then, but we did use our kitchens as ghost kitchens when we didn't have fans at Fiserv Forum to actually do some fast food, some QSR outside of Fiserv Forum. So that's where we kind of employed our own kitchens as ghost kitchens.
I will say those were the Cream City Cluckery is quite popular. It's quite good, Robert. I'm sure you've had the food. And I would say for a lot of our partners who looked to scale or drive revenue in the pandemic time, we did a lot of work on this to make sure, like, Milwaukee is in a really great downtown location. There's a lot of people around there. There's a scarcity of some of these concepts. So if you have a kitchen that made sense to do that, it didn't make sense for a lot of our venues who had not a lot of residential people nearby, right? So you got to have quick menus. It was quick to put together a website, simple, right? So you can use the same staff. But we've done this across the board in a lot of different ways. But a true ghost kitchen concept has to have a lot of other check boxes to meet that demand.
Bill, last audience question here before we wrap it up. Can you indicate the messaging you employed and exchanged with your patrons prior to getting them ready to come back, both season and general public?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one of the most important ones I think that you can spend time thinking about and getting with your team on. Our public relations staff was a part of almost every operational conversation that we had, and that may have been frustrating for them because things changed in 360 degrees probably 3 or 4 times as we got ready to open up our doors. But it was really, really important to have them be a part of that process because it allowed them to really see and understand what we were trying to accomplish, and it helped them be able to communicate it more effectively. aside from the health and safety messaging around things like masks and whatever kind of venue specific local COVID protocols you have, which are probably the most important, the next tier down for us from a fan experience standpoint and fan readiness was getting people to understand the importance of their phone. And so much of what we're doing now is through your mobile device, whether that's mobile ticketing, to all of this technology that we're talking about from a mobile ordering standpoint, to understanding information around the building and understanding what's there. So much of it, all of it, is on your phone. And historically, getting people to download an app and have that interaction with you has been really challenging. We've seen going to a mobile only, for our ticketing strategy as a real driver of that adoption. It creates this captive audience that you can then layer in these other experiences like mobile ordering or in-seat, whatever you're doing from that standpoint. But that initial message, the more you can get out front of your something as simple as your phone is your ticket to the game, period, picture of a phone, and just fewer exceptions, very clear messaging, getting people really used to and comfortable with the fact that they're going to be using their phone to unlock kind of their fan experience at the venue is one of the most important messages, I think.
Last question, get all of you guys out of here on this. Thank you for being so generous with your time here this morning. You can answer this in 30 seconds or less. Starting with Robert, what's the next gen technology solution that you have your eye on, that you have in your crosshairs, the thing that we could be potentially talking about, that next wave of innovation on the next ALSD webinar that we do together?
Yeah, so I mean, our big push right now is, we have the focus on the concert, the basketball game, and we really want to expand that to the experience outside the four walls. So we have the 30-acre Deer District. We're about to break ground on a 4-star hotel there. So we already have an entertainment plaza. So how do we expand that the mobile touch points and make it easy for our customers to really enjoy the full experience, not just get down there for the game and leave, but really know that there is so much more. And so that's going to be our big focus, is expanding that customer journey through our digital app, and just giving the guests what they want, right? Which is they want to have fun. And there is so much more than just the game itself or the concert itself. So that's going to be our next thing. So if there's folks out there that are all about the digital journey, I would love to hear from you.
Bill, same question to you. What's that next tool or extension of a current tool that you're excited about?
Yeah, I think it's just getting kind of deeper into the positive feedback loop that exists in creating, a really good mobile experience that is highly adopted. We're at the beginning part of that curve, frankly, and there's still a lot of kinks to iron out to really get there. But the more compelling mobile experience that you have, it's obviously great from a fan experience standpoint, but you learn so much more about who's in your building. And the more you know about who is in your building, the better and more personalized experiences you can deliver to them, right? So, and that just continues to build and cycle on itself. So, that's the type of ecosystem we're trying to construct, and the type of experience we want to provide at Tropicana Field, and certainly a future venue for us down the road.
Sandeep, land the plane for us. What are you working on in the lab right now?
Yeah, there's a lot in the lab for sure. I will say, kind of thinking next gen, two buckets, probably automation, and that could be tied to various forms of automation. So robotics, different types of delivery, touchless pouring, and then probably a sense of, I would call it biometrics, but it's probably more than that, right? The Clear, the Amazon ones, the Wickets of the world, to even maybe Bill, maybe there's no phone, right, in the future, right? Maybe it is the palm, maybe it is the face, right? And there's a lot of regulations with that. So none of those, I think, are at scale yet, but it's things that are in the think tank.
Robert, I echo your previous sentiment about wanting to continue this conversation and wanting to hear from others, because we are in a high tide raises all boats community here. Are you willing to share a way that those in the audience can continue to keep in touch with you after today, whatever you're comfortable sharing, whether that's email, LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, my email, rcordova@bucks.com, my LinkedIn, I think this is exciting times. I think there is a window of opportunity for a paradigm shift in how we really look at sports and entertainment. Just one more closing thought, the fact that we price seats, the closer you are to the court or the pitch, the higher the price, really doesn't look at the use case that folks, why are they coming to that game, that concert? If it's to hang out with friends, they might want to be in a quieter place, right? So just this whole idea of use case and thinking about the use case and how do you use technology to really solve that and sell them what they want to be sold, right? And it's exciting times to really do that paradigm shift.
Absolutely. And that definitely closes the loop from how we introduced the topic here today. So that's perfect. Sandeep, what's the best way for someone interested in the audience to contact you, keep in touch with you after today?
Yeah, same as Robert. Happy to help anyone. Again, I know a lot of people on the attendee list, but satish@e15group.com, and obviously they can go through you and Amanda if they need to contact as well.
Absolutely. And my email, if those out there aren't aware, Jared, Jared @ALSD.com. Bill, what's your contact information if someone is inclined to reach out?
Yeah, email is fine, and happy to take questions and chat with anyone who's interested in continuing the conversation. My email is W, not B, but W Walsh @raisebaseball.com, and happy to chat.
Thanks to the panel. Thanks to the audience. We're ridiculously over time. Again, we got to just start promoting these as 50 minutes because they seem to go that route. There's so much rich information to share. Happy to do it with you today. Again, reminder that the early bird registration deadline for the ALSD conference and trade show is this Friday, May 7th. We look forward to speaking with you a little bit more in forums like this virtual one today, but excited for the in-person conference come August 15th. So that's it for today. We'll see you next time.